Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News. It is June 12th, 2026, and Barcelona have announced a complaint filed against Florentino Perez. Also, Ajax making moves for Ter Stegen, and finally, Barcelona tracking Hilberto Mora at the 2026 World Cup. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Boo. Let's begin with some bombshell news because today Barcelona released a statement while declaring that they have filed a complaint against Florentino Perez. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about because you haven't been following that channel, maybe you live in a cave, which in that case, welcome to civilization. But ladies and gentlemen, a few weeks ago, Florentino Perez had a meeting with his board of directors after the season concluded, a second disastrous season for Real Madrid, where not only did they end the season trophyless, but well, they ended up with an incredibly fractured locker room. The players punching each other in the face, knocking each other out. They have gone through three coaches. Ancelotti, then Arbeloa, and now Mourinho. And of course, they have a huge debt, 1.5 billion euros. The club doesn't have any liquidity. And of course, their stadium is an absolute disaster. They're not going to be able to host concerts. Their underground parking structure has been shut down by the city, and their pitch is a total disaster where they have to paint it green. Can you imagine how pathetic that club is? They have to paint their own pitch green. I don't think even Getafe has to do that. But anyways, given the mountain troubles for Florentino Perez, he held a meeting, an emergency meeting with his board of directors. Then he held a press conference. And instead of being a normal, responsible, intelligent adult and coming out and saying, "Hey, Madridistas, I have failed you. I apologize for all these problems, both institutional and on the field. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to come up with a better plan to improve things." No, he went on an unhinged rant. And, of course, blamed everything on Negreira because, of course, Negreira is at fault for the stadium being a disaster, for the club not having cash, and, of course, for Real Madrid failing for 2 seasons in a row despite spending hundreds of millions of euros on signings. Now, of course, Barcelona, after seeing these statements, well, they released a statement stating that the legal department of Barcelona was going to be studying these statements to see if there are any legal recourses. A few days ago, Rafa Yuste, the interim president of Barcelona, said that a lawsuit is incoming. And well, today, Barcelona making all of that official, ladies and gentlemen, with the following statement. And this statement directly from Barcelona's website, which just states the following: FC Barcelona informs that on this day, the mandatory conciliation claim prior to the filing of a criminal complaint for an offense of slander under Article 205 of the Penal Code has been submitted against the president of Real Madrid, Mr. Florentino Perez, as a result of the statements made by him at the press conference held on May 12th and in an interview with a media outlet the following day. The purpose of this claim is for Mr. Perez to retract certain statements that he made with knowledge of their falsity, and which are slanderous and offensive to the image and reputation of the club. Should this claim not be duly addressed, FC Barcelona will proceed with the filing of the corresponding criminal complaint. So there you have it, folks. Barcelona, well, making do on their promise, filing this complaint against Florentino Perez. Of course, under the law in Spain, you first have to file a complaint and give the other party the opportunity to retract their statements. So now Florentino Perez and Real Madrid will have a chance to retract their statements and apologize for being clowns. If they don't, then under the law, Barcelona will be able to file a criminal complaint against Florentino Perez for slander. And ladies and gentlemen, I gotta applaud Barcelona for doing this, because people like this unhinged clown need to learn that actions have consequences, Mr. Perez. And if your parents failed to teach you that very incredibly valuable lesson, well, that's not our fault. You're about to learn the hard way, because you can't just go around slandering people, saying the referees are getting rich off Barcelona because Barcelona are bribing them. Instead, you need to be a grown-up, an adult, and admit that, well, as a president, you have been absolute trash instead of trying to blame your mistakes, your failures on someone else. So I'm glad that Barcelona have done this because this is how you shut these people up. And Mr. Perez, just because you didn't take your meds on that day, well, that's not an excuse. So I hope that Perez doesn't retract his statements. I hope Barcelona move forward with the criminal complaint, and I hope that Barcelona win this case in court because, again, clowns like Perez need to learn that actions have consequences, ladies and gentlemen. Keep that in mind in the future. Now, let's move on to that next bit of news because Ajax are making moves for Marc-Andre Ter Stegen. Now, as you know, Ter Stegen went on loan to Girona. Barcelona covering 90% of his salary in hopes that he could, shine at Girona and perhaps attract some interest from clubs, maybe even earn a spot in the World Cup and attract even more attention. All those plans went down a drain where Ter Stegen got injured immediately upon his arrival in Girona, which not only meant he wasn't able to attract any interest from clubs while at Girona, he also lost his spot in the World Cup, which also means he's not going to attract any interest during the World Cup. But thankfully, Ajax have been interested in Ter Stegen. As you know, Girona's coach Mitchell has now joined Ajax. He is Ajax's next coach. Also, Ajax have their sporting director as Jordi Cruyff, who used to be Barcelona's sporting director. And the first thing that Mitchell did upon joining Ajax was tell Cruyff, hey, I want Ter Stegen as my goalkeeper. And well, Ajax now making moves in regards to this interest. And originally it was just interest. Now Ajax actually acting upon this interest by reaching out to Barcelona and requesting medical reports. Of course, you got to understand that Ter Stegen has spent almost the last 2 seasons injured, so it's completely understandable that Ajax would want medical reports to see how Ter Stegen is doing, how he's recovering from his injury. Now, Ter Stegen is still recovering. It's expected that he will receive the green light around July 13, July 14, which is the beginning of the preseason. So that's good news. And, well, hopefully this move to Ajax can be completed because on one hand, of course, the club would benefit hugely by offloading Ter Stegen and removing his huge salary off their wage books. And on the other hand, as far as Ter Stegen, he deserves a dignified end to his career. After all, he was an incredibly important piece of Barcelona for many, many years. He was key in Barcelona winning many trophies the last few years. So, he deserves a dignified exit. He deserves to go somewhere else where he could be important because, of course, at Barcelona, he's not going to be because now we have Joan Garcia, who, by the way, 25 million euros for that guy. What a freaking steal. Anyways, let's move on to the next bit of news because speaking of the World Cup, Barcelona will be tracking the Mexican Pedri, Hilberto Mora. And of course, Hilberto Mora is a name we've talked about in the past on this channel. 17 years old midfielder, currently playing for Club Tijuana. He just became the youngest player to debut during this World Cup. He debuted, of course, against South Africa and Mexico's win over South Africa 2-0. He's someone that has been compared to Pedri due to his, intelligence, football IQ, his paws, his ball distribution, his ball control in tight spaces. Someone at Barcelona have been tracking for quite some time, and now it's been revealed that Barca have sent scouts to the World Cup to monitor Hilberto Mora. And of course, they will be tracking other players as well. But one of the players that Barca scouts will be watching is Hilberto Mora. So let me know what your thoughts are about this youngster. Do you think Barcelona should sign him? Of course, this would not be a signing that Barcelona would make this summer. It's very unlikely given that Barcelona are overbooked in midfield. But definitely a young emerging talent that Barcelona will be keeping a close eye on for the future. Now, let's end today's video with the news that Barcelona have began the process of extending the contract of the Shark, Ferran Torres, who many times becomes a sardine, but sometimes he decides to become a shark. So I guess that's good. And of course, Ferran's contract expires in the summer of 2027, which means he's entering the final year of his contract. Barcelona had held off renewing his contract because they wanted to see what happened with Lewandowski. If Lewandowski had decided to stay, Barcelona would have signed a 9, with that 9 being the starter and Lewy being the sub, and then getting rid of Ferran. But since Lewy decided to leave the club, Barcelona have now decided to renew Ferran because, of course, Ferran will become the sub with to whoever number 9 we end up signing. So Barcelona have already began talks with Ferran Torres' agent in order to extend his contract. They're saying another 3, maybe 4 seasons. We'll see how long Barcelona will extend, because after all, Ferran, honestly, he's proven that he's a good sub. Would I start him as our number 9 in Barca? Absolutely not. But is he a good sub who can guarantee you goals off the bench? Absolutely. So, he deserves a contract extension as long as he remains the sub. He cannot be our starting center forward. Absolutely not. So we'll see what happens with this contract renewal. I don't think it's going to be any problems. Ferran Torres has always wanted to stay at Barca. Now Barca are on board. So I think it's just going to be a matter of figuring out the numbers, putting it on paper, put the signature on it, and be done with it. Anyways, that is all for this video. I did upload another video a few moments ago. If you haven't seen it yet, make sure to check it out. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and as always, be scarce.